Brilliance Audio presents the unabridged recording of Untouchable, The Strange Life and Tragic Death of Michael Jackson by Randall Sullivan, performed by Mel Foster.
For Elaine Veronica Sullivan. Celebrity is a mask that eats into the face. As soon as one is aware of being somebody, to be watched and listened to with extra interest, input ceases, and the performer goes blind and deaf in his over-animation. One can either see or be seen. From Self-Consciousness by John Updike. Author's Note. The inception of this book was an email sent to me by Will Dana, the managing editor of Rolling Stone magazine, in late June 2009, that read, "Are you ready to drop everything and do the big Michael Jackson piece?" After thinking it over for 24 hours, I said yes, and flew to Los Angeles, where Michael had died just a few days earlier. During the next several weeks, and in the course of conversations with editors at Rolling Stone, I realized that most people thought they knew quite a lot about the life Michael Jackson had lived up until the time his criminal trial on charges of child molestation ended with an acquittal in June 2005, but that he seemed in their minds to have disappeared into some sort of twilight zone during the 4 years afterward, at least up until the time of the announcement of his This Is It shows at the O2 Arena in London during March 2009. So the idea became to provide an account of those last 4 years that would somehow also be the story of his life, with the details of his first 45 years brushstroked in, as somebody, maybe it was me, put it. By the time I realized that what had begun as a magazine article was turning into a book, I was committed to that structure, and it still felt right to me. I knew, of course, that I would need more than brushstrokes to tell the story of the first 9/10 of Michael's life in what purported to be a biography, but I still wanted the story of his final 5 years to be the crux of the work. I began to imagine the structure of this book as a spyglass telescope made of 3 sections, or tubes, that fitted over one another, and could be extended or retracted as needed. The first tube, the one closest to the eye, would contain the lens that examined those years after the criminal trial, when Michael was a kind of Flying Dutchman wandering the globe, his 3 children in tow, searching for a new home he never found. The second tube, a bit further from the eye, would need to be fitted, I thought, with the lens I used to study the circumstances that led to the criminal charges against him, including the Martin Bashir documentary, Living with Michael Jackson, that ran on ABC, the raid on Neverland Ranch, his arrest, and his trial. Then I realized that this second tube would have to reach at least back to 2001, when his 30th anniversary concerts coincided with the 9/11 terrorist attacks. Finally, I understood that the length of this second tube was really the 12 years between 1993 and 2005, when Michael's life and his public reputation were gradually destroyed by 2 very public accusations of sexually abusing children. The Michael Jackson who existed after August 1993 was a different Michael Jackson than the one who had existed before then. So the story of those years is key to understanding his life, and needed to be told in some considerable detail. I would have to research and write a chronicle of the 2 main events that bookended those years, the Jordan Chandler scandal that broke in 1993, and the criminal trial that took place in 2005, that both encompassed and eclipsed anything previously published. The third and most distant tube would house the lens that provided my view of Michael's life up to 1993, the first 35 years of his youth, his rise to fame, his reign as the king of pop, and his transformation into the person the tabloid media called Wacko Jacko. In other words, the story of Michael Jackson that most people thought they knew. It would be necessary to rely largely on the public record for this section that I would be telling as essentially backstory, but I would have the advantage of filtering this through the 2 other lenses of the telescope.